Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and I hope you can see me. I'm in a slightly different location, trying to get this done and um, update you guys on how I'm doing and what's been happening. And I hope this isn't too grainy. I just had to switch rooms because there's a lot of activity going on here right now. it's been uh, it's been interesting. That's all I can tell you. Oh my gosh. Anyway, make sure you sign in. I put my greeting on there for you guys and let me know where you are. Um, I know it's a short notice. Hi there. How are you? Short notice. Am I grainy? I hope not. Um, I hope I'm not too grainy. I hope you guys can see me. Okay. Anyway, I'm really tired, and I know it's been a little bit since I've been on. Um, if you saw my last video, then you know that a lady who has been living here in my home for it'll be 19 years in November, had a massive stroke on the 7th of July. And, just to try to recap on that story, my husband and I were actually planning to go out of town for a couple of weeks. And I wasn't feeling good that morning, and he decided to catch up on some yard work. And we just happened to be here, and she had a stroke. So thank God, he orders our steps. And but I am tired. I'm tired because this same lady had just been cleared for work, and she had just had a hip replacement, which was an 8-week recovery period, and that was in, I want to say, March, like the end of March. And then so she went through the physical therapy and all in home healthcare and all that. And then, they decided she was doing well enough to go back to work as much as she could tolerate. And she went back to work for a week. Not even a whole week. It was just, a couple of days because her boss was very gracious and, understood that she needed to start slow and all that. And I don't know, just the day after she came in from work, um, that morning, she was saying that she was experiencing some strange pain in her hip. And, I just kind of said, well, the doctor says it's going to take a year for you to heal and all that. She said, this is different. This is different. It's a pain I haven't felt before. And then the next morning, she had a massive stroke. So thank God we were here. Um, I wasn't feeling well. And the only way I knew that she was not well was because I wasn't feeling well. And I had gone into the kitchen. I thought, oh, I'll go make some coffee. But I felt like I was going to pass out. It was the weirdest thing. So I went back into the living room and I thought, well, she's in the bathroom and my husband's in the backyard doing some yard work. And if I don't sit down, I'm going to fall out and nobody's going to know I'm in here on the kitchen floor. So I went and sat down, and then she came out of her bathroom and she was either having the stroke or she had already had the stroke. And so, anyhow, um, we got her to the hospital in like 20 minutes. The hospital was like four blocks away, but I was in my pajamas and she was in hers. And so I had to get her dressed and told her, put your shoes on. And she didn't know what shoes were. So I had to help with that. And then I ran and got my husband, and praying to God I didn't fall down the back steps because I was feeling sick and dizzy myself. And I think I have like some kind of an inner ear thing going on. But anyway, um, we got her to the hospital. Long story short, um, they should have medevaced her in a helicopter, and they did not. They took her by ambulance, and it's an hour and a half drive. So there's a lot more damage done than what needed to be because they wouldn't take the bird up for whatever reason. They said, well, it's the weather and it's storming there. Well, it wasn't. We got there, the streets were dry, the skies were clear. There was nothing happening there. it had started to storm here. So maybe that's what they were talking about, that there was a storm coming and they couldn't take the helicopter up. I don't know. I will say this. Um, it has been the experience of a lifetime. I'm going to tell you, dealing with unreasonable family members and just, it's been very difficult. Um, and this is why the last time I came on, if you guys saw that video, I was telling y'all, make sure you have your paperwork in order. Make sure you have your paperwork in order. Well, she did as best she knew. What she had was she had her advance directives, which left me in charge of her health care if she got to a place where she could not speak or whatever, where she could not. And then she had her will, right, where she left a family member as the executor of her estate. But folks, there's the in between. She wasn't dead, she couldn't talk, but she's still living. And decisions still have to be made, bills still have to be paid, bank accounts still have to be accessed while she's living. So it's this is what I meant when I said make sure your paperwork is in order, because we did not have the in between. Now, thank God. Uh, uh, oh, Amber, really? She said she just got hit with two commercials. I don't know what's going on because they ain't paying me. So, um, anyway, it's it's been it's been challenging. The medical system has big holes in it. I'm just going to tell you, it does. I've not had to use this medical system. I'm sorry, y'all, I have allergies. My nose is itching. I have not had to use this medical system. I've been under the VA system for years because I'm a veteran. So, but I have, this is my first time having to deal with the system outside of the VA, which ain't the best either. But this was a bit of a nightmare. Let me tell you. I had to fight with her doctor to give me a letter saying what her diagnosis was, and that I showed him the paperwork, showed that I was the person that she had appointed as taking care of her needs in her advance directives, if she could not speak for herself and all that. Now, her paperwork was dated in 2018. I knew something existed, but I had not seen it. And she said she had to make some changes to it. I had not seen that. We did not know where the paperwork was. And my husband and I had to go through her room, which I don't do all the years that she's been here. I've never gone through her room. And so I didn't know where anything, we didn't know where nothing was. Oh my God. I said, well, let's just start here and work our way around. So we did. And we were able to find the paperwork and was shocked that it was dated back in 2018. I remembered her asking me about it. And I said, sure, I don't care. But that was it. And so, anyway, we found it. And the doctor was just a jerk. But anyway, he said, oh, you need an attorney. I said, I don't need an attorney to diagnose her condition. That's your job. Do it. So, anyway, I think he could tell I was not in the mood. So he went ahead and I said, all I need for you to do is to write a letter saying what her illness is and that she is incapable of expressing her needs right now. Even though she understands everything, she's incapable of expressing her needs. And then I need access to her bank account so that I could pay her medical bills, whatever they were. We didn't even know what they're going to be. I didn't even know what kind of insurance she had. I mean, it's been interesting, let me tell you. So he finally went ahead and did that. And I figured the best way to take care of that was to take that letter, the advance directives, um, her ID, and her with us to the bank and said, "Here's the situation," and she was right there. And so she took the teller, whoever she was. She said, "Let me go to the back. I'll be back." I said, "Okay." She went to the back. She came back. She said she has to sign. I said she can't sign. She said she has to sign something, even if it's not legible. I have to see her do it. Okay, all right. So that little etch a sketch thing with the little stylus. Well, good luck, right? So anyway, she did something. Her arm was weak. Her hand didn't really work right, but she put something there. And the teller witnessed that it was her. We had her ID. She was sitting right there. They knew it was her that put that mark on there. So that was good enough. Thank you, Jesus. We got past that. Then there was the family. Holy moly. You guys, let me tell you, people get crazy. Okay. They just lose their minds. Um, for whatever her reasons, um, she didn't choose a family member to take care of her if a situation like this came about. And they felt some kind of way about that. I guess they didn't know until they got the paperwork too. But here's the thing: I did not ask to do this. I agreed to do this because she asked me. And common sense would say, if you live here and your family members actually live somewhere in a U.S. territory, they don't even live on soil here except for one or two people who do not have room in their home for you because their house is so small, they'd have to knock out a wall and add an addition just to have another bedroom. That's what I'm told. I've never been in that house. But I'm thinking that may have had something to do with why she made the decision that she made was for me to do it because she's had her own space here, her own bathroom and everything for the last 19 years. So it would just make sense that if she lived with other people, that if she got sick, they would probably be the first ones to know. And we were the first ones to know. And we immediately contacted her family that lived here and said, we're going to the hospital. And there you go. But I'll tell you what, people are something else. That's a lot. People are something else. And yeah, they was feeling some kind of way, still feeling some kind of way about the decision that she made. But this is what I have to say about that. Last video, I was telling you guys, I said, make sure you have your paperwork in order. I can't tell you how important it is. And a lot of people, oh, I don't want to talk about stuff like that. It's too morbid or it's depressing. Listen, you're not just doing it for you. You're doing it for the people that got to deal with the fallout if something happens to you and you cannot speak for yourself. Please do it. It takes no time to, well, I don't want to say it doesn't take no time. It takes some time. So let me tell you, my husband and I, we found out through this experience what paperwork we were missing because of what she was missing. We were like, oh, we don't have that either. We didn't have the in between. We had this and we had that, but we didn't have life in between and you're incapacitated. We didn't have that. So, oh my God. So I went online. I went through a company. It was very, very inexpensive. And I was able to um, update our wills and everything. My husband and I, we had our wills done back in 2000 and hold on, let me turn my ringer off. Back in 2009, might have been eight, because we got married in eight. And but we were living in Canada. And so everything that was in our will was Canadian, right? Our property was there. We were living there. We had a different vehicle. We had different possessions. We have more now than what we had then. And everything changed. And so it's kind of like, you do your will and then you think, okay, it's done. It has to be updated. It has to be updated to fit your current circumstance. And so this situation taught us, man, we better. So listen, I went online. I went through a company called Legal Nature, something like that. I had never heard of them, but I looked through their site and I'm like, you know what? We got to do something. I told my husband we have got to update our stuff. And then we needed, and this is just for our state. I don't know about every other state, but we needed two witnesses. Let me tell you what God did for us, because when you want people to witness your paperwork like that, they need to be people of integrity, and they cannot be named in your will, right? Because there's a conflict of interest. So I had a friend call, wanted to come by and see our friend here, and she was bringing another one of our friends with her. And I text her and I said, we have updated our paperwork, our wills and advance directives, and would you guys be willing to witness that for us? And they both said, yeah. And let me tell you, they were sitting at that table for a while because I had my stuff, he had his will. See, you can't do a joint will. You know what I mean? You can't do that because you're individuals. So he had his, I had mine. Then we had hers, her paperwork that had to be finished. I had two advance directives. They said the same thing, but I had two separate ones. And one is because one is for VA hospitals, the other one is for regular regional hospitals or whatever who may not recognize the VA advance directive unless it's notarized. The VA doesn't care if it's notarized or not as long as it's on their form. So I did two because who knows where you're going to get sick, right? Or if you, thank Lord Jesus. And so and then we found out that not a whole lot of people are notarizing documents anymore. There was this thing that popped up that said something about, do you want to notarize these online? What? I used to be a notary. That was many years ago, like, I don't know, 30 years ago. I was a notary. There was no online 30 notarizing no doubt. I thought that's got to be a scam. So I thought I ain't going to do that because I didn't know if our state would recognize that some kind of electronic notarization. What the heck is that? I never even heard of that. So, so my husband said, well, let me call around. It used to be that if you had a bank account, um, then your bank always had a notary there somewhere and, or had access to one through a title company or whatever. And you could just go to your bank and get your stuff notarized. Nope. we, our bank, two banks, two of them said, nope, we don't provide that service anymore. I thought, what we going to do now? Because these really need to be notarized to be legal. And we ended up having to go through a title company who had a notary. When I was a notary, I charged something like, I don't know, like $4 for a document. Yeah. Well, um, it was a lot of it was a lot of papers. It was. I had myself, I had five stacks, five stacks. My husband had four, and our friend had one. And my stacks probably, I think one of them might have had like 10 or 12 pages, and that was just one of them in one stack, right? So, yeah, it was a lot of papers, and only, of course, only the back page needed to be notarized, but still, she had to look through everything to make sure that everything was in order. And it took us a while. So it was like $39 for the service online just to draw up the paperwork. Thank God they did it uh, respective to my particular state. And all I had to do was fill in what I wanted. They say, do you want this? Do you want that? Initial this, initial that, whatever. I just printed everything out and went through and hand did it, signed it, dated it, and did all that. And then I printed out my husband's and what his wishes were. And our wishes are not the same. That's interesting. But anyway, I was like, really? When I looked at his, you want to do that? So, okay. But that's his wishes. That's his wishes, right? Okay, all right. So we got his stuff all done. And then the only thing I did for her was a power of attorney so that I could take care of other business that's not medical. But what I did was I sat down at the table with her and I went page by page. I said, this is what this is. This is this. This is this. You don't need this because you don't have any of that. And I wanted to make sure she understood exactly what I was telling her. If she didn't, she was like, and then I would explain it again and she'd be like, okay, so after we got through everything, I said, you have to sign this. And so I had been teaching her how to write. And so it came out a little bit sloppy, a little bit more than a little bit sloppy, but it was her signature at the time. So uh, when we got to the title company, I explained to the agent there, I said she had a stroke a couple of weeks back and she understands most of what is said to her, but she cannot articulate everything. And so the manager, he said, that's no problem. And he looked at her and he says, do you understand why you're here? If you do, just nod your head yes. And she nodded her head yes. And he says, and you're here out of your own volition. And she nodded her head, yes. And he said, okay. He said, well, I'll get the agent. And so I gave them all of our IDs, and she took pictures of everything, went through all the paperwork, and got to hers. And I said, well, she tried her best to sign that. And she looked at the ID and knew it was her. Is this your signature? She nodded her head, yes. And that was the end of that. But let me tell you, and it's $100. But if we had gone through an attorney, it might have been $1,500. Who knows? Anyway, so we got it done. So I want to tell you what we have been doing, because when I said the medical system kind of failed, we we are 3 weeks into this. And it was just last week, this past week, that any therapist has been here to help. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, just this week. She's been home 3 weeks. So all of the gains and all of the processes that she's gone through, and improvements that have happened with her, has been as a result of some of you guys praying, people that I contacted around the state that I know. I put out a blast email, and there's a lot of people praying for us because they know we have no experience with this. We have no professional training. No, we're not skilled in this area. We're just trusting God to help us, to help her to get as close back to normal as he would have her be. That's our goal, my husband and I. And you would be surprised how many things um, that a person takes for granted, because something as simple as brushing your hair or flossing your teeth or something like that, are things that was making her cry because she could not brush her own hair. So I was helping her, with her getting dressed. And like I said, nobody had been here to help us. I was just terrified trying to get her, thinking, how am I going to get her into the shower? I'm not a skilled nurse. I don't know how to do this stuff. She was very weak on her right side. She couldn't, her grip was very, very weak, and she was dragging her foot a little bit and all this. And I had to have a safety belt on her when she was walking around because her balance was off because the stroke affected the right side of her head. So, I'm telling you guys, there's been a lot of prayer. My husband and I have been praying a lot for wisdom from God to help us to help her. And I appreciate everyone that has prayed for us, because I'm telling you, this has been something else. And in dealing with the attitudes from one particular family member has just been nuts. It's just been crazy, but jealous, just flat jealous and mean spirited. And it wasn't even our decision. I mean, it was her decision, and she's the oldest out of the siblings. She made her own decision. And I told them, you need to respect the fact that she's not the youngest. She's the oldest. She made her own decision, and you need to respect that. So whatever. Get over yourself. But anyway, um, so it's been um, it's been tiring. But like I said, going back to things that you may take for granted because you're used to doing it, you would be shocked at how many things you absolutely can't do because you have to relearn it. You have to relearn. Now, for example, let's say 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, she could only say 5 words, and none of them made sense. I mean, you couldn't even put it in a sentence. Just 5 words. That's all she could say. Now, her coherency is in and out, right? So I've been working with her on her speech because there's no speech therapist. They tell us that there's a shortage in this area. I don't know. I just been working with her, with her speech. I've been watching videos from speech therapists online and trying to adopt some of the practices that they have been doing with their patients that they videotape. And that what else can you do, right? That's crash coursing. And so I've been doing that. And anyway, just things that we take for granted, like being able to brush your own teeth and being able to brush your own hair and being able to get in and out of the shower. And so because she had just had that hip therapy, there was already a grab bar on the tub. So that was good. Um, and when I injured my knee, the VA had gave me a shower chair because they were concerned that I would fall in the shower. I've never used the chair. I have never used it. Brand new. So we put it in her bathroom and put it in her bathtub. And then I bought a non-slip mat to go in the tub. And then I put another bathroom rug. And she had shelving in her bathroom. We took it out. Anything that she could fall into or trip over, we just we emptied the room. My husband and I said, "Yeah, we gotta take this out of here." Because she's real foo right? So she had all this stuff in the bathroom. She gonna hate me for this one. But we took everything out of the bathroom except the sink, the toilet, and the bathtub. Everything came out. Everything. And so that if she needed to get in there at the time, she was on a walker. And so I don't want her, yeah. Can you see the disaster? Right? No, we taking that out. Well, thanks be to God, she's been a week without her walker on her own. She just come walking out her room, kind of hobbling. I was like, I'm watching her because I don't want her to fall into nothing. We even rearranged our living room to make it wider for her to come out from the hallway with her walker. She came out without the walker. So I was like, okay. So I told my husband, I said, we really got to keep an eye on her because I don't think it had occurred to her all the things that she could not do yet, right? Because in her head, you know, I guess you don't know what you can't do till you can't do it, right? And so there was this one day where she was just really frustrated and aggravated because she couldn't comb her hair and I had helped her get into the shower and she was just so frustrated because she couldn't get her hair done. And so, well, my husband and I, we had girls, we raised girls, so we knew how to do hair. Although her hair is a lot like his, it's like that white people corn silk stuff. So I got this, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to do her hair, and it just kept slipping through my fingers. I couldn't do it. I told my husband, could you do her hair?" So he did her hair. Yay, we got that done. We got that done, and then she was fussing because she couldn't get her earrings on. Now look, y'all, we wasn't going nowhere, but she wants to feel more like herself. Okay, fine. So we got the earrings in, and she 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 kind of dressed herself. So what we found was it was the small precision things that she was having a lot of trouble with. So I bought some container of earplugs, and they're flat on the bottom and kind of rounded on the top. So it looks almost like a chess piece without the little ball on top. And my daughter had been helping us the other day. Yesterday was our wedding anniversary, and I just, from March until now, we had not had a break, not a single day. So my daughter came by and she said, why don't you guys take off for a few hours and, I'll stay with her and all that. So when we came back, they had been working on her precision. So my daughter used to be a CNA. But anyway, she had her taking the earplugs, they're soft, and setting them up. She had to set them up where they would stand up like this, working on her precision. What I did was I her recognition of objects concerned me a little bit because she came to me one day and she was carrying a bottle of lotion and she says, what is this, what is this, what is, you know and I said, that's lotion. And she was like, so she didn't know what lotion was, she didn't know what the bottle was for. I thought, that's a problem. Okay, so now we got to work on recognition, of things. And here's the thing, if you don't practice, you don't know. We always learn by repetition. Even when we were in elementary school, we learned by repetition. We learned by having to write a whole page of the letter A or a whole page of the letter B or making sure we wrote on the line. That's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at. So I thought, well, told my husband, settle in. We're going to do this by the grace of God. We're going to get this thing done. So, um, what I did was I saw this other technician do this, and she had she had a plate. Uh, well, she had some objects that she sat on the table in front of her patient, and she wanted him to identify each thing, and then she gave him specific commands. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try that based on what I saw happen with the lotion. So I had a plate, bowl, an onion, a cup, a fork, a kitchen towel, a napkin holder, and my sunglasses, right? Just random stuff. And so I cleared the table. I sat everything down on the table in front of her and slightly to the left because her peripheral is not working right now. And I said, where's the plate? Show me the plate. And she looked around, and she would do something like pick up the fork. And I said, nope, that's a fork. Where's the plate? She looked around and she picked it up and looked at me. And I said, good, that's a plate. I said, now, where's the fork? And she would find the fork. She'd pick it up. I said, good, put the fork on top of the plate. And she looked at me. I might have to say it like 3 or 4 times. Put the fork on top of the plate. And she looked, and then she put it in, and she looked at me like, is that right? And I'd be like, good, that's good. And then I say, take the fork off the plate and put it on the table. Then it occurred to me that I hadn't told her what the table was, right? I said, this is the table. And I showed her, this is the table. And she put the fork on the table. I said, where's the kitchen towel? She picked up the towel, put the towel in the bowl. So that's and the reason I was doing that is because I want to know, first of all, does she recognize what she's looking at? Second of all, can she follow simple commands? Now, with the progress that we made with that, she still cannot say her name. She knows what her name is. This is because what happened was this particular stroke affected her speech, right? The speech part of her brain. They call it the Wernicke part of the brain, and so she understands a lot more than what she can say, but she doesn't understand nearly as much as she used to, if that makes sense. So, um, this is just my opinion. The object identification is important, or, you can touch something and not know what it is or what it's used for or anything like that. So, if you ever have to deal with this, like I say, I'm not an expert. I'm thinking by the time I come out of here, I might be. I have a free degree in this. Um, but anyway, so I just did exercises like that. And then finally, physical therapy and occupational therapy came this week. Can you believe it? She's been home 3 weeks now. They just now showed up. Well, of course, by the time they show up, she's walking without her walker, you know, because we've been working with her, exercising, the legs and making her grip things and, and do these exercises and raise her hands above her head and do this and things like that. Uh, so by the time they got here, it's like, wow, she's doing great. I said, you're welcome. So anyway, but the scary thing was when she wanted her car keys, and I'm like, I don't think we're there yet. But my husband said, I'll just take her out there. Well, we took her out there, and he gave her the car key. I said, don't you let her. He said, oh, I'm not. So they go out there, and sure enough, she had the keys, but she didn't know how to get in the car. And then she cried because she realized it was her car, those were her keys, but she didn't know what to do with them. And then he showed her how to open the door, and then she got in. He got in. She didn't know what to do then. She didn't know where the ignition was. She didn't know. So it's kind of a it's like a double-edged sword because you find out you make these steps and you make progress. You know, you can put the towel in the bowl, but then you don't know what to do with bottled lotion. You know, it's that kind of a juxtaposition, you might say, that's very difficult because a person in this condition doesn't know when they're going to hit a wall. They don't know when they go to try to do something that seems natural, and all of a sudden there's nothing there. There's no information about how to do it, and you can't say what you're frustrated about, and it's very hard, very very hard for her or anybody going through something like this. So, um, you know, the Lord has just He's just shown me how quickly she is progressing, and I'm trusting God to bring her back totally and completely. But that's his business. You know what I mean? I mean, that's his business. He didn't tell me that's what he was going to do. That's what I've asked him to do. But it's his business what he does. And the only thing we're going to do is the best that we can. So, you know, like when it comes to the showers and all like that, I knew she's a very private person. And so how I manage it was I go into the bathroom with her and then I let her get into the shower. You know, she uses the grab bar and then I pull the curtain, and then she can sit down and take her clothes off, hand them to me through the other side of the curtain, and then you know we found a way. We found a way to do it. At first, she was like, "No, you know everything, everything." I said, "You ain't my type, okay? Don't even worry. I have a husband. I don't care. I ain't looking at you. Hurry up, girl. I ain't looking at you." So, so anyway, we got that done, and she was able to wash her. She washed her hair, but she can't braid it, you know. And so he braided it for her. But we got all that together, got that done, and anyway, it's been so that's why I hadn't been on because it has been very very um, it had been very very taxing, and somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened to me. Like I said. 3 weeks ago, I had a severe dizzy spell, which never happens to me. Last time I had something like that happen to me was about 15 years ago. And I had an inner ear infection that almost knocked me on my butt. I was laying in the bed and felt like the room was spinning because my equilibrium was off. And that's what I felt that morning that she got sick. And that's why when I came out of the kitchen, I thought, I better sit down before I pass out. This is weird. And if I hadn't have been in that chair, if I had been passed out on the floor, or if my husband and I had been at our RV, that woman would have died here. She absolutely would have died. And so I just thank God that we were here. I'm still dealing with the dizziness and stuff. As a matter of fact, I put a note into my doctor today. But I was talking to a guy that was a medic in the Navy, and he said, "You sound like you have an inner ear infection." I said, "You know what? That was the last time I felt like this." But we're 3 weeks into this, so anyway, so I'm treating myself. When he said that to me today, I thought I hadn't thought of that, but I have stuff here to treat myself. So I started that today. I'm 3 weeks into this whole spinning room stuff, and so I'm just trusting God to deal with this here, and we're just going to keep plugging along at what we're doing, and by the grace of God, well, everybody's going to pull through this. So I wanted to update you guys on this, and I know some of you have texted me, and thank you so much for praying. And Lord knows, we could not be getting through this without somebody at least uttered one prayer for us. So I appreciate that. I really do, because I know all of you, you have your own lives and you got your own set of drama or whatever might be going on. And so I appreciate you just taking, 5 seconds to pray for us because we need it. We really do. My husband and I are flying blind here. We're trying to do the best we can with someone that we regard as a family member because they've been living here for so long. So, um, and then I had mentioned in the title of this about, keep prepping. This is one of the things, that I think people overlook as part of prepping. And that is to make sure that you have all the paperwork that you need in order. I'm telling you, but guys, please It is so important. And there's so many obstacles that you can run into if you don't have it. And now the person is incapacitated and you can't do anything about it. See, like in this case, with the family member that wants to huff and puff and blow my house down, it doesn't matter what she says because uh, her family member, this woman here, signed this paperwork under her own steam in her right mind, meaning she had not been court declared insane. She did it by herself in front of witnesses, right? There is nothing this family member can do about it. There's nothing they can do. They can huff and puff all they want to, but she expressed her wills in a legal document, and that's the end of the matter. That's the end of it. So um, it just makes everybody's life a little bit more easy when you know what a person wants. Now, the reason as a married couple that you need to have two separate things is because you don't have the same possessions. My husband has things, he has equipment and stuff. I don't use that stuff. I ain't going to use it if he dies. I'll probably just sell it or whatever. That's what I was going to do. But he put in his will what he wanted done with that stuff. Okay, great. At least I ain't got to decide, right? And then I have things. I have jewelry and stuff that he ain't gonna wear it. So, you know what I did? Let me tell you what I did. I took a picture. I think I may have told you guys this, but I took a picture of all my jewelry that has any value, not my costume jewelry, but I have jewelry that has a lot of value. I took pictures of it and I looked up the manufacturer or the jeweler's description of that particular piece. I typed it under the picture and I put the person's name that I want to have that piece in the event of my death. So ain't no discrepancy about, oh, well, you got this, you got that, and she wanted me to have this and she wanted me. No, 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 no. If your name ain't on that picture, it ain't yours, honey. So there you go. And I let my family members know this is what I've done. So there ain't gonna be no discussion about who's supposed to get what. And a friend of mine gave me an idea, which I forgot to do, but she gave me an idea. She put it in her will that if anybody tried to change the original will from what her wishes were, that they were automatically disinherited. How about that? I didn't even think about that because it was just so much going on. I didn't think about it. And I thought I should have did that. Now I can't picture anybody doing that in my family, but who knows, right? Because she's a little blown away from her family member doing this. She's like, I've never seen her like this. Well, there you go. Um, Stuff makes people do crazy stuff. Anyway, so yeah, get your stuff, please. Do your stuff. Don't do it to your family or your friends where it creates all this chaos and people just, their whole life gets wrapped up in what you didn't take care of. It's not fair. It's really not. So, um, for us, it was an oversight. And what opened our eyes to it was what happened. If this hadn't happened to her, we probably would have kept things just like it was and not gave it a second thought. So, anyway, but this is part of prepping, right? It's part of prepping and making sure that your life is in order and that you don't leave a mess for somebody else. You don't have to die to leave a mess. See, some people think I'll be dead. I don't care. What if you're not dead? What if you're just incapacitated? You're not dead. You're still here, and people are acting the fool because of what you didn't do, right? So don't do that. Anyhow, I hope you guys are doing okay, and thank you so much for coming on. I know it's been a while. Let me take a minute and read you all's comments, and then I want to tell you this real quick concerning her progress. Now she's a chatterbox. Lord have mercy. She talks, 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 talks. You don't understand a whole lot of what she's saying when she talks because what they do is they make up words or they fill in words that don't make any sense, and then you have to try to extract the words that do make sense and try to get the gist of what they were trying to say. And if you get it wrong, she's like, no, no, and if you get it right, yes. So it's like charades every day, several times a day. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Lordy, lordy. Um, All right, let me read you guys comment, see what you're saying to me because I've been talking like forevermore. So, hi, Chloe. How are you? Hi, Amber. Hey. Yeah, you're right. Amber said they have trained the empathy out of the healthcare and a lot why I left. Yeah, it's hi Carolyn. Yeah, it's let me tell you, the healthcare system is these people are like robots. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like they just follow what the last doctor did. Nobody I was thinking about this today. It's like there's no critical thinking. They don't stop to think, okay, this is what the last doctor did, but it might not be the best thing for them at this point in their life. This particular medication or how does it interact with somebody. I was listening to a podcast one time and this guy was talking, he was a doctor and he was talking about, he said, most people that come to my clinic, he said, we had a gentleman that came on here, he was on 54 medication. That is criminal. I mean, somebody somewhere along the line should have said, wait a second. So now he's sick as a dog because he's taking all this stuff and it's all interacting and just killing his systems. It's just awful. And this is why you have to be your own advocate and you have to tell, nope, I'm not doing that. Nope, I'm not taking that. My doctors were sick of me. I go to my doctors to find out what it is they think is wrong with me. Okay. And then I'll judge for myself. Okay. Is that really what I think is going on? And if I do, then I look for a natural alternative. That's what I try to do, a natural alternative. If I try a natural alternative to for what I feel is a sufficient amount of time, that there should have been some kind of improvement or something and it doesn't work, okay, then I may try the pharmaceutical. But first, I go back to nature. First, I find out what did God make available for me to deal with something like this, and I go with that. That's what I try to do. So, hi Sharon, how are you? Uh, Hi, me too. Amen. You know something? I've had so many people, even her doctor. She had her first doctor's appointment, and her doctor, she said, she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, she's very blessed to have you, right? In that accent, right? And uh, I mean, and she wasn't the only one that looked me straight in the eyes and said that. And I'm thinking, okay, then. Um, I think Jesus made all this possible because, like I said, we were planning to leave, just trying to tidy up in the backyard and all that before we got out of here. And so that dizzy spell I had came in handy because it kept me here, you know. Um, yeah, I know the hair slipping through the fingers. You know that corn silk stuff they got. I ain't got what they got, but anyhow, yeah, he knew how to handle it though. He was handling it. I was like, well, go ahead with your bad self because I can't. Nope, I can't even put a barrette on that stuff. It'll just slide right off. Put a barrette in my hair, it ain't going nowhere. But anyway, uh, so if anybody has any questions about how to do this, I can tell you the company that I used. It was like $39 for the subscription, and it's got all kinds of stuff on there respected to your particular state, the legal documents for your particular state, how to start a business, how to do a cease and desist letter, all kinds of stuff was on there. I was like, wow, look at this. And um and I'll tell you another way that God blessed us, and that was when we got to the title company, to get all of those documents notarized. The lady asked me, she says, where'd you get the documents? Who did this for you? I said, well, I did, but I used an online service. And she said, oh, okay. And then she starts looking through them. And while she was looking through them, she says, well, I generally don't notarize documents that I did not put together. I said, okay. And that was all she said. And then she went on and started notarizing them. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Oh Lord, because I wasn't trying to pay no $2,000 or $3,000 to have her do what I just did for 39. You know what I mean? So anyway, so listen, you guys. just think about what I said. I wanted to give you an update. Um, I wanted to give you an update on what was going on because some of you text me and wanted to know was I okay, and I just been. But for those of you that have been praying for us, please pray that her speech returns. Um, because what I told her was, I know it's frustrating, but if you don't try to speak, yeah, it's going to come out all screwed up until you retrain your brain concerning, the sound of word. I mean, we're doing like preschool phonics. I mean, that's where we're at. They don't even teach phonics in school anymore, but preschool phonics, how to make the a or ah, just yeah. If I say the letter A, say A, she'll say things like that. We're starting from ground zero, trying to just trying to say the right words, and then suddenly, a whole sentence will come out. Like she was frustrated earlier today. She says, "I just want to be able to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6." We were like, and then right after that, everything went crossways, and then she started talking gibberish again, and we were like, "Okay." So and now she can't say it. So it's like memories, how to say things are stored in the brain, but if it doesn't get a trigger, then it doesn't connect with the mouth. It's a very weird thing. So if you tell her to say it, it's like she can't say it. But when she got mad, it's like it bypassed her effort and just came out, you know. So not that I wanted to be mad all the time. I don't want to be mad all the time. But anyway, it's just a very, very weird thing. Um, yes, Amber, baby steps. So, and that's the thing, just trying to keep her encouraged because here's the facts. Like it is with anyone concerning any issue, whether you're dealing with some type of an addiction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or some other kind of handicap or whatever. Listen, if the person gives up, there is nothing you can do. There, I can't talk for her. I mean, I can legally, but I would prefer she speak for herself. You know what I mean? But if a person gives up and they just get so, and she told us one time, she kind of acted out that a lot of times she feels like she just wants to. I said it's only been 3 weeks. It's only been 3 weeks. They don't even look to see any kind of real improvement for 6 months. Look how far you've come in 3 weeks. So we try to get her to focus on what she has been able to accomplish in a very short period of time and not look at what she can't do. Don't look at the fact that, okay, because you don't have full use of your hand, yet you can't braid your hair. The world is not going to burn to the ground because you can't braid your hair. Somebody else can braid your hair. It's okay. Um, Before you couldn't get bathed without a nursing someone assisting you. I don't have to assist her. I just have to help her get into the tub, and that's it. She bathes herself, and then I hand her a towel. She gets out the tub. I go out the bathroom, shut the door. She dresses herself. She dries herself and dresses herself. So, and I told her, I said, there are people that are flat on their back. They can't speak. They can't. They're paralyzed, and they had the same kind of thing you did, and it so affected them on their right side they can't do anything without assistance. You're doing all this stuff without assistance. No, you can't file papers yet, and no, you still can't remember your password for your telephone and your computer, but we got the computer working. So we had a technician come who knew her, and he took her computer and got in there with some kind of a tool and got into her computer and set her up a new account, with her name. And does she know how to use it? The computer? Well, I can go on there and pull up, gospel music or Christian music for her. And one day I was going down the hall and I glanced like this and looked in her room to see if she was okay. And she was sitting at her desk and she was listening to Christian music and she was just weeping. And I said, just deal with her, Jesus. So I knew that God was ministering to her and that was her and him. And so I just went on about my business. And and she came out and she said, she was trying to tell us that he was there. He was there, he was right there. She kept pointing up, and we were like, yes. So God's at work, and um, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for praying. I'm still trying to get over whatever this is that has me feeling dizzy and nauseous all the time. At first, I thought it was the stress of everything, and then I checked my blood pressure. My pressure was higher than what it needs to be, and I was still thinking it's the stress. But I don't know about this whole dizziness and stuff. So I'm thinking, I hope I don't have no inner ear thing going on again. Oh my God. So I'm treating that, and you know, God bless us. That's it. Listen, you guys, be praying that we stay out of war. Um, our president has launched two submarines to help protect our nation and our waters and all that, but none of us want to get into a war. I mean, that sucks. I just listen. As far as I'm concerned, nobody wins if the only thing a person walks away with is more land. I mean, who won that? No, nobody wins. So we just want to stay out of wars with people, and if people are fighting over in other nations and all that, and if we can stay out of it, we need to stay out of it. We don't need to send our sons and daughters over there getting into squabbles that's been going on for 2 or 3 thousand years. Because some of them have been going on that long. That's ridiculous. So my goodness, just walk away. But I hope you guys are doing okay. I hope everybody is doing fine, um, and also uh, I ain't trying to scare you, but be careful of the meat that you buy. We do not buy chicken in our house that doesn't have a bone in it. We just don't. I don't eat my own chickens, by the way. I know you guys know I have chickens. I don't eat my chickens. I just can't. I can't do it. I've never done it. I never done it. If one of them passes away, we compost them. I don't eat them. I just can't. I mean, I probably could if I had to, but I've not dressed one. I've not done all that. My husband, on the other hand, God bless him, he could do it. But I don't even know that I could eat it if I knew it was one of mine. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I don't buy chicken breast. No, because I saw a video of Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, eating a piece of chicken that was lab grown. And he was standing there with the scientists and all that, and they cooked up this piece of chicken, and they asked him what did he think, and he said, tastes just like chicken. Well, it is chicken, but they made it from stem cells from a chicken, right? It's like, ow, something just sounds kind of freaky. Like, I don't eat Franken food, but anyway, um, and so now they're talking about injecting the mRNA, whatever that crap is, into beef, and so uh, who knows who's cooperating with that? I don't know. The last time we bought beef, we bought it from, I think we bought it from a rancher, but that's no guarantee that they ain't injecting it, because they want us all to eat plant based stuff. And if that's your thing, that's your business. But I'm a carnivore. I eat meat. I'm an omnivore actually, but I eat mostly meat. So um, you just got to be careful where you shop. And there's a lot of recalls and things going on now. So do your due diligence and be careful about where you're shopping and what you're buying, and read labels, because I'm telling you, it's like the longer I live, the more I come to understand that a lot of the stuff that they're selling in these supermarkets that they're calling food is like chemicals. I'm not, did you ever read what's in margarine? You better read the label, folks. I'm telling, I can't remember the last time. I mean, it's been decades since I used margarine. I'm like, butter, please. I'll do butter. Thank you very much. So, anyway, well, I guess I better get back out here and make sure everything's okay. My husband is with her right now, and I can hear him sometimes trying to get her to say certain words and all that. So we're all, it's like, it's a family affair. We're all taking advantage of whatever time we have to try to help her along. And Anyway, I just thank God for you guys that have prayed for us, and please continue to do so and pray that I can get past whatever's going on in my head and with my eyes. It's just kind of a weird thing. Um, it feels like it's gone beyond stress, unless stress did this. I don't know. I do know I have a little bit of pain over here, so it could be an inner ear thing going on. And I had felt right here, my glands feel a little bit swollen, so I know there's some kind of infection going on, and it could be in my ear. I don't know, but I'm going to try what I have. I made, you guys remember I made all these tinctures and stuff, and so I have one that I made with organic apple cider vinegar. I made it 2 years ago, and I've only had to use it once or twice for my husband. He had an abscess, and I gave him that like 4 times a day, 2 droppers full under his tongue, and it broke the abscess. And then we went to the dentist, and had the tooth dealt with, but it cleared out the infection before he got there. So yes. So this is the same stuff. I haven't had to use it for me. So now I'm thinking, okay, I guess I better hit that stuff. But it's oregano, it's organic oregano, thyme, and olive leaf, like the leaf. And I took them and put them down in some organic apple cider vinegar, and I let it rest in there for like 8 weeks. And then I used a fruit press and pressed it out and put it into very dark medicinal bottles and labeled it. And it keeps for a long time if you keep it in, if you store it properly. And so that's what I'm going to be using right now. Um, and but I still sent a note out to my doctor to let her know. So I'll see how I'm doing on Monday. If I'm feeling a little better, and if she wants to give me antibiotics or do a CAT scan or whatever it is she wants to do, we'll see. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And if that doesn't work, then yeah, I'll try the antibiotics. But what I put together is supposed to be a natural antibiotic, so hopefully it'll work. It's strong enough to deal with this issue here. And yeah. Oh, hello, honey. My husband is on here. As long as what doesn't turn into killer robots. Were you talking about the meat? Oh Lord. Anyway, uh thank you, Amber, for coming, and me too. And Chloe, thank you, and Carolyn, thank you, everybody, for coming on. Please pass this video on so that people understand the seriousness that, like, I mean, anything can happen at a split second, and your whole life can change, and then it could be too late to do anything about it. So anyway, I want to thank you for your support. Please, please, please give this video a thumbs up, because I can see how many is on here, and the number ain't matching how many thumbs up. So come on, y'all, smile on me, do something, give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much. I will see you the next time I come on. I don't know when that'll be, but I will try to. If you email me at the email address in the description under the video, if you take that email address, send me an email and let me know how I can text you. And I will try to text you the next time I'm coming on so that you'll know. Because my understanding is most of y'all don't even get the notifications. That's why I start texting people and saying, I'm going on in 10 minutes, or I'm going on at 7 o'clock, or whatever, because it's been a long, long time since anybody got notifications. It's ridiculous. So anyway, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate you, and covered your prayers. And I will see you the next time I come on. And I love you, and I appreciate you. Take care.